Welcome to Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft, the founder and CEO of Judith Heft and Associates Financial and Lifestyle Concierge. This year, they're celebrating 26 years in business. In every episode, Judy interviews professionals who help others successfully manage their financial lives. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Judy is the author of 2 books, How to Be Smart, Successful, and Organized with Your Money for a Better Today and Tomorrow, and her latest book, Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles, How to Successfully Manage Money in Every Decade of Life. You can read chapters of her books and catch prior episodes of this show at www.judithheft.com. Now here's the host of Mastering Your Financial Life, Judy Heft.
Hey everybody, welcome to our 11th episode of Mastering Your Financial Life. And today I'm really excited to be here with my good friend Mitchell Fink. Mitchell and I met each other a few years ago and it was instant connection. We had a lot in common and we had a lot to chat about, so it was really fun. And I'm really excited. So Mitch calls himself the book doctor. What he does is he helps you bring that dream onto paper. He helps you write it. He helps you edit it. He helps you publish it and bring it to fruition. And I love the expression, the book doctor. So he's currently working on his novel, Creatures of the Wind. It sounds really juicy and exciting. So I hope we get to talk about that a little bit. And so help me welcome my friend, Mitch. Mitch, welcome. And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Judy.
It's always a pleasure. So you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? If I left anything out, I hope I covered some things, but maybe I forgot a few things.
You left a lot out because I've lived a long time. But I've been a journalist for many, many years. And I started out in journalism as a writer on a music trade publication called Record World. I eventually became the editor of Record World. And
I remember Record World.
Yeah, it was a competitor of Cashbox and Billboard.
Mm-hmm.
And but Record World is no more, Cashbox is no more, but Billboard is still standing. At any rate, I did so well as the editor that the editor-in-chief couldn't stand that I was getting all the credit for the turnaround in this magazine, and he fired me. I never saw it coming. And there began the reinvention of my career, because I was doing a job that I loved. You know, I had to leave school in the middle of my junior year in college because my father passed away. Oh. And my mother and my father's brother thought I should go into his business. And so I did. I hated it. It was the textile business. I hated it. I continued going to school at night. And I couldn't stand it anymore. And I left there and wound up getting this job at Record World, which I loved. I was the first one at the magazine in the morning, and I was the last one to leave every night. And so suddenly I didn't know what I was going to do. And I had all these jobs or job offers from record companies. You know, one of the great record men who died way too early, a man named Neil Bogart, Buddha Records and then Casablanca Records, called me up. He said, I want to give you a job. I said, what's the job? He said, well, Kiss, the group, is going to be in Milwaukee on Wednesday. I want you to go to Milwaukee on Monday and fan the flames. I said, Neil, you could pay me $1 million and I wouldn't do that. It's just not for me. What happened was that I got a job at Warner Brothers Music, the music publishing company of the Warner Group. And it was fun. It was great. And it got me closer to the music. And a friend of mine had taken me down to Max's Kansas City in very early in 1973. Took me down to Max's Kansas City on Lower.
I think I must have seen you there that night.
Okay. And he said, I want you to see an act that you're not going to believe. And I said, okay, who is this? He said to me, his name is Bruce Springsteen. I said, okay. And he had 2 albums out that nobody ever cared about, and they didn't sell. And so we're in a cab going down to Max's, and people are lined around the block. I said, his albums did nothing. Who are these people? He said, they're all from New Jersey. And so I went in, we went upstairs where the like 100-seat bands, you know, it was a small little place. And Springsteen came out on stage with the E Street Band, small bandstand, and he was wearing a St. Louis Cardinals baseball cap. And I thought, here is this guy. He's from New Jersey. He's in New York. He's wearing a Cardinals baseball cap. I thought that was so cool. And he blew me away completely. So I'm at a publishing company. Let me find out about this guy's publishing because I think he's a superstar. I called his manager. His manager at the time was a guy named Mike Appel. I said, would you come up to me at Warner Brothers? I'd like to talk to you about maybe making a deal. He came up. He said, you have a reel-to-reel machine? Reel-to-reel tape. So you find, yeah, I mean, you know how long ago that was.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody in their right mind has a reel-to-reel. So I said, yeah. He said, you have earphones? I said, yeah. He said, okay, put this on, put your earphones on, and we'll talk afterwards. And I said, okay. Put the earphones on, I press play, and I hear Born to Run.
Oh, wow.
And I'm telling you, it was unbelievable, my reaction. So the song ended, and he said that's the title of his next album. And I said, okay, I want to make a deal. And he said, okay, kind of very smug. He kind of folded his arms. He said, I want $100,000 for a co-publishing deal. I said, you know, my boss is in LA, which is where he worked. And I said, I have to get his approval. So I will get back to you, and hopefully today, because I really want to do this. I called him up, a man named Ed Silvers. And I said, Ed, we have an opportunity that I think is unbelievable for $100,000, Bruce Springsteen, co-publishing deal. And he said to me on the phone, and I never forgot his words. He said, Bruce Springsteen is never going to translate West of the Hudson River. And I said to him, Ed, with all due respect, if your decision is that you don't want to do it, this will be the single biggest mistake of your career. He said, that's my decision. Of course, you know, Bruce Springsteen went on to not only translate West of the Hudson, but all the way around to the east of the Hudson, you know, and
all around the world.
All around the world. And he's still going at it strong. And so that was a sour thing that we had. And eventually he got rid of me. And so you know, what am I going to do now? You know, music publishing was okay. My heart is in journalism. I thought my first marriage was breaking up. I thought, well, I'm going to go to Los Angeles. Maybe I can reinvent myself in Los Angeles. I don't know doing what, but I went to Los Angeles. A friend of mine let me stay at his house. I mean, when I say house, like a cottage. And with nothing to do in the morning, I would go to the corner store and buy the 2 newspapers in LA, the Los Angeles Times and the Los Angeles Herald Examiner. And so I'd make my breakfast, I'd read, had my coffee, and I would read the 2 newspapers. This is now January 1978. And I've tried a million things before I left New York. None of them worked. And so there I am with these 2 newspapers, and I noticed something really extraordinary, and that is in 1978, the music scene is blowing up. Where there used to be on the Sunset Strip billboards of movies. It's now all music, all of it's music. And so I noticed that Los Angeles Times does a lot of coverage of music, and the Herald Examiner does practically nothing. So I had a friend in Los Angeles, and I said, do me a favor. Um, I know you know one of the editors of the Herald Examiner, a guy named Don Forst, who was the #2 man at the Herald. And I said, call him and ask him to take my call. And he took my call, and one thing led to another. A woman named Marianne Dolan was brought in as the editor of Style, which was like the features part of the newspaper. And she gave me a job. And the job was to write one music column a week for $100. And I took it and I said, can you let me do something else? Would you let me have a typewriter? This before computers. Would you let me have a typewriter and a telephone? And she said, yeah. So I had the column once a week, which was out on a Monday. I had to have it in by Friday, but I was there every day. I was there every day. I started meeting everybody at the newspaper. I became a fixture at the newspaper. They needed someone. Hey, are you free to, talk to this guy and do an interview with him? Can you go review this show? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I said yes to everything. I'd get another $25 for this, another $35 for this. And eventually I was put on staff. And then in 1987, the gossip columnist left, and they made an open competition. And the editor, who I learned from, who's really my rabbi, period, in journalism, a man named Jim Bellows, who was the greatest newspaper editor I ever came across. He was no longer at the Herald. He helped invent Entertainment Tonight after he left the Herald. And at any rate, I called him up. I said, I have the opportunity to become the gossip columnist. And he said, drop whatever else you're doing. Get this job. It will change your life. And so 3 people had the column for 2 weeks each. And during my 2 weeks, the racetrack Hollywood Park was opening for its spring meeting. And I thought, I'm going to go out to the racetrack because all the celebrities come and I'm going to get a chance to talk to them. And what's so interesting about this particular opening in April 1987 is that a fixture at every year at Hollywood Park was always Cary Grant. And this year he would not be there because Cary Grant passed away in December of '86. I said, okay, I'm going to get all the celebrities talking to me about Cary Grant, and it'll be a great column. So I go there, and one of those celebrities is Audrey Meadows. Audrey Meadows, who the world knows from The Honeymooners. Alice Cramden from The Honeymooners. She did a lot of other things, but everyone knows her from that. And she said, you want a Cary Grant story? I said, yeah, I do. And she said to me, okay, it's one morning. She's living in Scottsdale, Arizona. And like she does every morning, she's dressed in like a house robe. Her hair is in curlers. She's got fluffy slippers, and she wants to take her little dog out to do its business, pick up the paper at the edge of the driveway, bring it back in. She does this, brings it back in, unhooks the leash, puts the paper down on a table, and there's a knock on the door. How could there be a knock on the door? She was outside just now. She saw no one. Knock on the door. She opens the door, and there standing before her in a suit and tie and not a hair out of place is Cary Grant. And he says to her, I was just in the neighborhood. I thought I'd come over for coffee.
What a great story.
And she said, I'm standing there in my house robe, my fluffy slippers, my hair is in curlers, and I wanted to die.
I can imagine.
And right in that moment, I knew there's not a woman alive who would not relate to that. And I wrote about it And the person making the decision of who was going to be the gossip columnist was a woman. I got the job. My life was changed tremendously. I started a career in television. Then the Herald folded, and they were bleeding money. Hearst Publication. I had been there for 10 and a half years. Best place I ever worked to this day. And I wound up getting a column at People magazine, continuing on television. And I just kept going with this dual thing of, and then I got a job at the Daily News, and then it came crashing down again in the aftermath of 9/11. I was very, very good at what I did, but suddenly I'm out because there's no more advertising. The Daily News is today a shell of itself, former self. And so I started doing books. I got an offer to do a 9/11 book. I did it with my wife. It became a New York Times bestseller. I did another book and then another book. And then I realized I'm not going to get rich, let alone manage my financial life doing books. I need to do more than that. I started doing PR. I started doing all these different things. You know, PR I never really loved. My wife kept saying to me, "You're so good at it." I said, "Yeah, but it's my heart is in something else." And then I started writing more on my own, and I started helping people, and I became a book doctor right before the pandemic. And you know, and I'm working with people to this minute, doing that, and then something else comes along out of the clear blue sky. I had no idea.
I'm going to stop you right there, Mitch, because we're going to take a little break. And then I want to hear all about that next project. That's the celebrity point of view, POV, right? Is that what you're going to
Yes.
talk about now? So let's take a little break. I love how you reinvented yourself so many times. I think it's really interesting. I thought I was pretty cool because I reinvented myself once. But you got to do what you got to do, and things change. So yeah, this is fascinating talking to you, Mitch. So we're going to take a little break right now, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about celebrity POV. Thanks. Hey there. I just want to tell you a little bit about my new book that just came out called Mastering Your Financial Life Cycles. And here it is. It's how to successfully manage your money in every decade of life. I co-authored this with my CFO, Liz Levy, and together we created this manual that's going to help you through every stage of life. We talk about having a baby. We talk about young adulthood, pre-retirement, what to do when you're at that age of retirement. If you're contemplating divorce, do you need an estate plan? We cover all of these, each subject in a different chapter. And I really think that you're going to find this so helpful because at the end of every chapter, we have checklists that you can look at and you can use, and they can be a guide for you. So this is a wonderful manual that we've created. It's available on Amazon. You can also find it on our website at judithheft.com/book. And we're here for you. If you need anything, reach out. I hope you enjoy the book. Here's another picture of it, just so you know what's going on. Here it is. And I'm really proud of it. It's my second book. And I'd love to have you read it and give me your feedback. Judy Heft, judithheft.com, financial and lifestyle concierge, celebrating 26 years in business. And over the years, I've learned so much. And what I've been trying to do is impart a little bit of this knowledge to you so I can help all of you become as financially organized as I am. So we're back with Mitch. So yeah, Mitch, so I love talking to you over the years and hearing all these wonderful stories. And I think it's really pretty cool the way you reinvented yourself. You had a lot of ups and downs. You got canned a few times and then you just pulled yourself up by your bootstraps, as we say, and just looked for the next wonderful opportunity and made it work. And so now you have another project that's happening while you're still writing and doing your other things called Celebrity POV. And I'd love to hear you tell us a little bit about that.
I never saw it coming. There I was. I had started calling myself the book doctor, and it was working, and it was absolutely working, and I was very happy doing this. Writing on my own, helping others write, and editing for them, and so on. And unbeknownst to me, a woman who's a former Wall Street Journal reporter made a call to the former head of communications of the Madison Square Garden, the Dolans, Cablevision, all of that. And she called him up and she said, you know, I've started this new company out of Austin, Texas, called TruthDAO, DAO, which is really kind of surrounded by the crypto world. And she told him about it. And she said, I'm looking to do a show called Celebrity POV, Point of View, and as a talk show, a 1 hour talk show, live. And I'm looking for a host. And he said to her, this is all unbeknownst to me. He said to her, there's only one person who can do this. And he tells her, gives her my name. And she said, would you introduce me to him? You know, virtually like we all do. And completely he doesn't call me first. He doesn't say anything to me at all. I just get an email from him. Mitchell, meet Leslie Corley. And I think that Mitchell is the perfect person for this. And I look at it and what it is, a celebrity talk show. You know, I kind of understand that world. You know, I've been doing that in some manner of speaking for years, and just never that formalized into one show with just me and someone else. So Leslie and I started talking, and pretty soon she realized that there was no point in her talking to anyone else. I mean, I started throwing out ideas and all that, and we made a deal. And what we're trying to do, and we're going to launch, I would say, mid-September at the latest. And I'm looking for guests who are pretty much household names from the world of business, from the world of entertainment, sports, politics, and to have a, you know, kind of like a serious discussion about, you know, some of the more complex issues of the day. So it's a real talk show. It's not, you know, I'm not going to be Jimmy Fallon, you know, come on and show me, you know, the trailer for your new movie and do funny things. It's really going to be a serious and probing look at various issues that the particular famous person knows something about, is passionate about, wants to talk about. You know, so I'm looking, you know, I'm not looking for that vapid conversation, which so many people have on television. And that's not what I'm after. We position ourselves as I'm standing at the intersection of fame and the news. And I want to do something that's smart, that's credible, and that you know, that will shed light on things. And at the same time, because it is Web3 journalism, it's the world's first news organization doing something like that. And we will live on an app called Fireside. And Fireside is the app was launched last fall by Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks. And, you know, I'm sure people have watched him on Shark Tank for years. And a woman named Falon Fatemi, who was at one time the youngest employee ever hired by Google. They put this together, and we're their only news group on their app. And I know that a celebrity talk show is going to be the tip of the spear for them.
It's going to be great.
And we're also going to stream live on various platforms, including YouTube, Discord, Telegram. You know, those last two, I never even heard of before I started talking to these people. And because I am managing my financial life, I will be paid in US dollars because the crypto world is so,
Yeah,
the
that's smart.
fluctuations. Yeah, but that's not my concern right now. My concern is that in that space, we are the first news organization in the world.
That's
And
exciting to be on
so,
the ground floor like that.
yeah, yeah. So it's not quite like Al Pacino in Godfather 3. They pulled me back in. Um, in Godfather 3, he really went in kicking and screaming. I did not go kicking and screaming into this. I thought this is a wonderful opportunity. I never saw it coming. If you asked me what my vision was, 6 months ago, I would have said that I could continue what I'm doing and I can stay healthy, and then all of a sudden this comes along and it's just a fantastic opportunity and I'm embracing it.
It's so exciting. So how often will the show be broadcast? Is it going to
It's
be
going to
weekly or monthly?
it's going to start out as every other week, and the eventual thing is to go weekly.
Great. And do you have any guests booked yet, or anybody?
I'm not ready to talk about it yet, but
Okay.
by in the next 48 hours, I will have something done.
That's so exciting. I'm really happy for you, Mitch. It sounds really thrilling. And you
Thank
get
you
to
so
talk to
much.
so many interesting people like I do on my podcast. I'm really enjoying just talking to interesting everyday people. So I can only imagine what it would be like to talk with these famous people. And maybe you'll get Mark Cuban on as a
At a
guest.
certain point, someone said to me, "Why don't you do him first?" And I didn't want to. We didn't want to just
He's a pretty
pander to
cool,
that.
interesting guy.
At
Yeah.
some point, I will. But
Yeah.
we want to be able to do this on our own without any help.
Excellent. Sounds really great. Yeah, and I'm only disappointed now because I didn't get to see Bruce at the at Max's Kansas City. I frequented that place in the early 70s. I was living in the city at the time as a single woman and went there a lot, but I never saw him there.
You're about to tell me too much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll end it right there. So we're going to wrap this up. So, Mitch, how can people find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me on Facebook. They could find me on Twitter also.
What's your email?
I don't know that I want to give out my email because
Okay.
I get way too many emails now.
True.
But if someone wants to contact me, they can absolutely do it through Facebook or LinkedIn.
So on LinkedIn, you're Mitchell Fink.
Yeah. And on Twitter, I'm at MF News 17.
And do you have a website?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm going to be part of the TruthDAO website. If you go to Truth, capital DAO, you'll find me.
This is great. It's always so interesting to talk to you, Mitch. You have so many tidbits. I love the story about Audrey Meadows.
We didn't even talk about Swifty Lazar.
I know. I thought we were going to talk about the party at Spago.
Well, I mean, I used to go there regularly, and I'll just tell you two quick stories. He patrolled Spago like crazy, and there I am, a journalist, and I'm there to talk to everybody. And so I'm having one night this really intelligent conversation with Warren Beatty. And, Swifty's a little bit of a thing. People don't know who Irving Swifty Lazar was. He was the agent for many, many superstars. It was actually Humphrey Bogart that gave him the nickname of Swifty, which he hated. But and so I'm talking to Warren Beatty, and suddenly this little man comes in between us, looks me in the face and says, "That's enough, Mitchell." And, he wanted me to walk away. And, Beatty was having, one of his many, many intelligent conversations because he's a very intelligent man. The great writer, Dominic Dunn, had this luncheon appointment with Swifty. Swifty was supposed to come to one of those restaurants on Sunset that no longer exists. And Swifty doesn't show up. And so Dominic is there and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" And it turned out that when Swifty was leaving, he was pulling out of his driveway and he ran over his cook. And
Oh my God.
she didn't die.
Oh, good.
He didn't die, but he was so shook up that he never showed up for lunch. And the last thing, at some party that Swifty gave for one of his clients. I went and I brought my wife Lois, and I said, Irving, I don't think you've ever met my wife Lois. This is Irving and this is Lois. And he says hello to her and he looks at me. He says, all these years, I thought you were gay. And I looked at him. I said, how do you know I'm not?
There you go. Good answer.
And so, you know.
Did he have a sense of humor?
No.
I didn't think so. I have a good Swifty story too. So I was probably, you know, as nobody else knows, you know, I've told you this, Swifty and my mother were first cousins. And I was out in California with my husband at the time, and we were in the LA area, and I wanted to see him. And we always tried to see him whenever we could, you know, our famous relative. Anyway, so we go, and I told him, you know, we're in town, and he says, yeah, come on over. And Mary, his wife, is in the background telling him, no, we don't have time. We have to go to this party or something. We're leaving. And he said, his sister, I just want to catch a glimpse of them. And I get there, and he gives me this gift. He gave me a beautiful Tiffany apple on a chain, you know, a cutout Elsa Peretti apple. So it's my claim to fame. But yeah, it was always fun. He'd come up to visit my grandparents in Connecticut and leave the limo running, you know, and he'd just run in for a minute. He was so busy.
Yeah.
So this was great. So it was really fun to talk to you, Mitch. I always enjoy our conversation.
You too, Judy. You too.
Thank you so much. And maybe one of these days I'm going to get famous enough to be on your celebrity POV.
All right. You'll have an open invitation. Okay.
All right. Good talking to you.
You too.
You've been listening to Mastering Your Financial Life, hosted by Judy Heft. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, and sharing this show with others. You can read chapters of Judy's books and catch prior episodes of Mastering Your Financial Life at www.judithheft.com.